they want to do, and why, more importantly, why they want to represent you as a member of the Associate Students Executive Board. For just an intro, the Executive Board is your student voice to the administration on campus, and they carry a lot of weight because they sit on committees and they sit on hiring committees. So it's very important in terms of what they do. So elections are coming up. They are next week, Wednesday and Thursday. They'll be on Lancer Life, which is lancerlife.pasadena.edu. You'll have an opportunity to vote for the candidate of your choice. So before I go any further, I wanted to acknowledge the fact that this event is happening on the land of the Hahamanga tribe of the Tongva Nation. So this is we're very grateful to be here on land that they're the original caretakers of, and hope that we can live up to their example. So thank you all very much. And what we're going to do is I'm going to set my stopwatch, and we're just going to take an opportunity to introduce yourselves. Again, this is your 2-minute piece. And I think what we'll do is we will do we'll start with Jillian, and we'll go to Kelly, and then we'll figure out who goes first, Jonathan or Amber. So Jillian, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone, my name is Jillian, and this is my first year at Pasadena City College, and I'm running as your Vice President of Student Equity. My major as of now at PCC is Sociology, and to basically start my introduction, I wanted to introduce myself and talk about why I got involved with social activism. It actually started after high school, and I noticed a repetitive cycle within myself that I had a struggle with accepting a part of myself, which is my Black identity. And as soon as I started getting more involved with the Black Lives Matter movement, I noticed a very empowering change in myself that I honestly truly started to fall in love with my identity, and I started to fall in love with my Blackness. And I really wanted to advocate for people in my community as we went through a variety of discriminatory experiences as well as tragic events. And it also just motivated me as an individual and activist that I wanted to create safe spaces for marginalized groups that not only can they feel empowered when they're on environments like school, but I also wanted them to feel seen as well as heard. So it really inspired me to put myself in positions like these where I could make marginalized groups feel like they are empowered. And with my position to continue PCC's mission to make marginalized groups feel heard, I really want to have more mental health counselors that reflect the identities of marginalized groups on campus. I think that it's very important to sit in a room with someone who you're able to reflect your identity with, and somebody who's able to validate your struggles. And I also would like to collaborate with organizations and groups on campus that represent a variety of marginalized identities. I think that it's really important that as an associated student body, we spread awareness about those organizations and groups so marginalized students know that they have places like organizations or groups that they can go to find themselves as well as their identity. And I also would like to spread awareness about the events talking about underrepresented groups on campus. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I didn't let the candidates know, but I will give you a 5-second countdown. Okay, so that way you can wrap yourself up. So next, can we have Kelly, please? 2 minutes.
Yes, hi everybody. Really glad to be here today. I am a second year currently, going to be a third year next year, and I'm your current Vice President of External Affairs. So I really still first got into student government because I realized the power of like political science and the power of legislation and the voice, and especially in our democratic nation, and especially in a time like this, as Jillian has mentioned before, it's more important now than ever to take power in the voice that we have. So this year, I've definitely worked on a lot of legislation with an amazing lobby committee, amazing group of 7 lobbyists now, which have done such amazing work lobbying for your needs at the state and federal level. This year, we spent our time creating events. My most memorable one was probably the election watch party drive-through, promoting the watch party event, where we gave some packets out, and we were there to listen to your voices and listen to your needs on legislation. And as student trustee, a possible contender for student trustee next year, I really want to make sure that we continue that and that we listen to your voice, because there are a lot of things being done at the table, not just at a state and federal level, but on campus, right, with the board of trustees, that really need to incorporate what your needs are, right? When they're making decisions for students, it's more important that they have, most important that they have student voices. And that's exactly what I want to do this year, is to empower your voice. Through office hours, through other events, they're going to your classrooms, going to your clubs and organizations, and making sure that I accurately portray you and do you justice when it comes to representing your voice in the Board of Trustees, and cooperating with them in making their decisions. Bring more student members in hiring committees, right? And also ensuring that basic needs are met, ensuring that we are adequately funding those organizations that are ensuring basic needs success. I guess basic needs are met in order to ensure students feel success in that area, and also to utilize that to propel them in success in other academic areas. So that's just kind of a rundown.
Thank you. Okay, so Amber and Jonathan. I have, please pick a number between 1 and 10.
7.
2.
Okay, it was actually 1. So Amber, you're first.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amber Contreras. I'm a first-year student here at PCC, majoring in political science, and I'm hoping to be your next Vice President of External Affairs. It actually took me a while to think about whether or not I should run, because even though I had this desire to help our students at PCC, I was not involved with associated students at all, and I thought that maybe I wasn't qualified or that I wasn't ready. But then I looked at my past experiences and the things that I've learned from organizations that I am involved with outside of PCC, and I realized that a part of being a leader means taking the information and the knowledge and the skills that you learn to give back to your community and fill in those roles where you can be useful to others. And in this case, I would love to give back to my school and be a part of this effort to improve their experiences, especially under the circumstances that we are in. In regards to my platform, if elected, I would first and foremost be in constant communication with students and listen to what they have to say about their needs and struggles. I would also like to confront the issues of college affordability, food and housing insecurity, going back to school and ensuring the safety of our students, and listening and advocating for those who may not feel represented, such as our international students, our students with disabilities, our students of color, etc. And how I would tackle these issues, of course, includes lobbying elected officials. And there are some great bills that are in the process of being passed. And we also have Governor Newsom's budget proposal that needs to be approved. And that would provide millions of dollars for community colleges to combat the issues that I have listed. So thank you so much for listening. And I hope that I can earn your vote next week.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, Jonathan, your 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to use the first part of my 2 minutes just to say, great job, Amber. I'm totally in tune with your platforms, and Kelly just dropped out, which is okay. But yeah, I'll just let you guys know who I am. I'm Jonathan Apodaca. I'm also a first-year political science student here at PCC, and I'll tell you about some of my experiences at first. So I'm a current member of the Supreme Council, Student Lobby Committee, and the Publicity Committee. I've learned so much by being on these committees, and I've actually already started lobbying for bills. Some of the stuff that we've done has expanded CalFresh benefits, and these things they're still in the state Senate, and they're really just like, the fight doesn't end like once I start like talking about, like, it's still going to be happening, and like once like whoever is elected, like they're still going to have to talk about these issues. So I'm really happy that like I have started to like already communicate with legislators on this. And I've worked with Kelly, who is the current chair of the lobby committee. And so yeah, so some of my platforms are mental health, food, housing, finances, equity, COVID-19. And I actually attended an Active Minds meeting yesterday where they voiced like their concerns to me, because I was just really trying to like gather like public opinion. And yeah, they were really like open to just like telling me what their concerns were. And yeah, so I also, as part of the student lobby committee, I've advocated for equity. And so we also did something where we advocated for a pipeline for med students who are in community colleges, because it's really hard to actually go to med school when you're in community college. And so this helps foster those who are underserved, because here at PCC, we have primarily Latinx students. And so I'm also doing stuff that focuses on strengthening youth apprenticeships. And yeah, so I really hope you guys could vote for me, because I also help to foster a community here at PCC.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. Okay, so now we get to go into some questions. We're hopefully anticipating some questions from the public, and they type them in. But just to go through some of the questions that I think folks asked in the past, and I think that it's a big concern, is equity. Equity is a big issue on campus. So I'd really like you all individually to talk about one equity issue you see on campus and tell us what you would do to help. So again, think about what's happening on our campus, and this can be through your own personal experiences. Please share one equity issue that you see and how you plan to help change it, fix it. How is this going to help students? So we can do this. You can go popcorn and people could just raise their hands, or I could, okay, we're going to go that way. So we're going to go with Jonathan. You're going to have, it's a little bit of a tougher question. So we'll try and go for about a minute. How about that? Okay.
Yeah, sure. Awesome.
Okay. So go for it.
So one of the things that has really been brought up in lobby committee, and I've learned this just by people voicing their concerns through student polls and town halls. And so something that students really care about is food insecurity. And so I've helped lobby on expanding CalFresh benefits, but the work isn't done yet. We could still do more. We could still keep lobbying on CalFresh benefits. We could still keep lobbying on housing. We could still keep lobbying on transportation, because not every single student lives in Pasadena. We have students coming from El Monte. We have students coming from Arcadia, and they have no form besides public transportation. So I want to help them get to school easily, because especially during COVID, you don't really want to take public transportation because you could feel in danger. And so I would really just keep lobbying on the stuff that I have been lobbying on and expand it to a wider view. Something else I wanted to do to improve equity is I wanted to form a joint committee with whoever is in charge of the Student Equity Committee next year. And so what we could do is we could gather students to get their concerns more frequently with study groups, and we could use them as almost a team to voice their concerns also to the legislators. That's all.
Thank you. Jillian, I kind of saw a hand going up. Did you want to go next?
Yeah, I can go.
Wonderful. Go ahead.
I think there's a lot of the equity issue that's surrounding PCC right now is I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of disability students are underrepresented. I know a story of someone who basically went to PCC and he was visually impaired, and he was hoping to go to PCC for only 2 years, but he had to go to PCC for 4 years because he had to retake his classes. And the reason of that being was because he wasn't able to get support to writing his notes. He didn't have somebody that can help him scribe. And I think that's a really big issue, because I don't think that a lot of services are contributing enough to the students with disabilities. And I think that it's really important with my platform that I'm able to take those experiences, whether they're in the disability community or they're other marginalized students, and be able to voice them in order to support their journey towards academic success.
Thank you. Anyone else like to answer that question? Kelly? Go for it, Kelly.
All right, so I'm going to take a little bit of a different route, because I think definitely on campus and just, obviously across America, this whole equity thing applies to also financial status, right? But more importantly, a subset of financial status is women, right? So like for women, for example, menstrual products, it's not a luxury product. It's definitely a necessity, but a lot of times women with financial needs, they see it as a luxury. So a lot of times they don't have access to it, or they, would prefer to buy food or something that's obviously more urgent than a menstrual product. And, having a voice on the board of trustees would be able to give me the opportunity to possibly negotiate a program in which we store menstrual products on campus bathrooms. And I've been working with the SSCCC on this, the Student Senate for California Community Colleges, in developing a toolkit, which has already been distributed. I'll be working from that toolkit to ensure that we have some sort of system and plan in place for possibly including menstrual products on campus.
Thank you. Amber.
Yeah, so I would also say that financial issues definitely prove to be a barrier to those who are disadvantaged. Um, because low-income communities, when you're thinking about, where you're going to get your next meal or how you're going to pay for rent or, just simple things like that, you're not focused on your education. You're not focused on, where you're going in life. You're trying to survive and you're trying to compete with these people who do have that advantage. So I would definitely support legislation that helps fund for resources to help with those people. There is a legislation that is in the process of being passed. It's called the Cal Grant Reform Act. So it expands eligibility so that people can get funding and resources so that they can have food. And it also expands eligibility for non-tuition expenses such as supplies. Advantaged people, they can pay for tutoring, they can pay for supplies to succeed in school. Disadvantaged communities and low-income families don't really have that. So I would definitely lobby and advocate for that.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to come back. We're going to circle back to an equity question because I think there's an equity question I left unanswered in the room. I think you all talked eloquently about issues that normally don't get brought up, but I will circle us back again. There's a question coming from the crowd, and recently there have been some changes. And this is kind of a dual question. You as representatives to the college are the voice of students. Recently, we've lost two major pieces of our PCC community. Winter intersession was canceled, not canceled. The college made the decision to eliminate winter intersession. And we recently, last week, lost the Rosemead campus. So how do you respond to students who are now how do you respond to their concerns that these winter intersession's gone and that Rosemead's gone? Because Rosemead had about 3,000 to 5,000 students there, very popular campus. What is your response and what is your plan? How are you addressing their concerns to our administration? So real life issues. Rosemead and winter intersession are gone. Those are things that do support students. You now have students who are asking you for accountability. How do you do that? How do you go to the admin? How do you speak to them about it? Jonathan.
Yeah, so I think really when it comes to the nitty grittiness of actually doing stuff, I think people like me and Kelly could really like advocate to like the board of trustees and other like government organizations like Pasadena City or even like the county or state, like just educational stuff. But I think when it comes to actually like conducting yourself to the administration, I think it's important to really stand your ground, but also be respectful because you don't want them to just get annoyed of you and like not hear you out. Like they'll wait you out till like next year or just whenever you're gone because we're only here for a finite amount of time, but they'll be here for a very long time. And I think it's really important to lead with strength, but also to lead with kindness. So then you can develop these relationships with those in power so then they could actually hear you and help you.
Thank you. Next, anyone else? Amber, go for it.
Yeah, I think whoever is elected to these positions, I think this job requires you to step out of your comfort zone. And that includes, having these uncomfortable discussions with admin. And because that's your job, you're supposed to stand up for these students and you have to say it like it is. But of course, as Jonathan said, you have to be respectful and you have to be kind. But yeah, we have to step out of our comfort zone and there's no way that we as a community and we as a school can grow if we just stay silent and we don't speak on the issues that matter. And so bringing up issues such as the closing of the campuses and the canceling of the winter sessions, these are important issues that they impact our students very much. And so we would definitely need to get out of our comfort zone and address those issues.
Thank you. Kelly or Jillian? Jillian, go for it.
I think that it's really important when addressing these issues that, yes, of course, it's important to be able to get our input and me in my position confidently say and speak up for these students. But I also want to give the students that have been impacted by these conflicts the opportunity to speak to the admin and the student governments as well. I think that especially since I have not personally experienced that I want the other shared governments to understand this is what the students are going and these are the demands that they want from you. So I really think that it's important that we give those communities a space to actually express themselves in those rooms and talk about what they want from the admin.
Thank you. Kelly.
Yes. Okay. I think I cut out a bit there, but I'm back. So that's a really good question. And I definitely think, especially since the Rosemead campus, a lot of them are adult students. A lot of them are living, obviously Pasadena, right? The city itself is a more expensive city. So the students that it attracts versus the students that Rosemead attracts are different. So first of all, that's an equity issue in itself. And I think probably the best thing to do is reach out to them, right? Reach out to them, ask them, what is your greatest concern right now? What do you want us to talk to administration about, right? Going out there, holding another drive-through event or, going on campus, holding some type of, I guess, safe COVID measured, insured kind of event where we kind of consolidate their emotions, their concerns, and bring their voices to either the Board of Trustees or whoever's the decision-making organization on campus for that specific decision. Ensuring that we're really collecting their voices, and that's probably what I would do. Yeah, I think I have 5 seconds left, so I'm going to end it there.
Thanks. Very good. Thank you all for those questions, those answers. Kind of going off of that is, in your role, I think there's a joke that, people in power, there's a lot expected of people who are in power, right? And there's a joke about, you can't please everybody. And that is very, very true. So the flip side to this message is you now have a student who is coming to you to complain because winter intercession is gone, or their beloved Rosemead, because people loved that campus. People really did love that campus. It's gone. And these are things that happened before you came to the office, but because the public sees you as their voice to the campus, how do you communicate to that student what has happened? So these are decisions that are made that they're done and sealed. How do you communicate that to a student? Because it's all about communication and working with folks. How do you communicate that to them, and how do you, you can't please everybody. So, all right. So I see Jonathan's hand. Ready? Go for it.
Yeah. So I think the really important thing is to just take accountability. I was on AS last year as part of committees, and even though that I wasn't directly involved in these decisions, I was still part of this organization. So yeah, I think even if the losing of Rosemead wasn't completely out of our grasp, I think we did we're at some fault. We could have done something better to secure contracts. We could have really just had more input on that. And these things obviously do have consequences. 3,000 students, something like that, no longer have a place close to them to go to school. So I'm suggesting that a huge amount of them won't return to PCC. And the demographics of Rosemead to probably Pasadena are more diverse. And so it is an equity issue. And I would be willing to have a conversation with any student who wants to talk to me about any of this, even if I'm not elected, and I would still stand up for them to the administration to secure a better alternative.
Thank you. Who wants to go next? Jillian, go for it. Thank you.
I personally think in my position, it's really good that I hold some sort of event, maybe on Zoom, or hopefully if we start opening on campus, to be able to talk about these things. Not only would I be addressing the situation and, like Jonathan said, have some accountability towards it as well, but I really want to hear what the students affected in that process and how they feel about that as well. And I really want to be able to advocate them, because I think that a lot of times we are able to address these situations, but we're not able to give a voice to the people most impacted by those negative conflicts. And I just want to give students a space to be able to easily communicate with me. So I'd love to hold events or even do surveys, but I think more of an in-person conversation for them to express themselves would be truly good for myself, but also for them.
Thank you. Kelly or Amber? Okay, Kelly.
All right, so I definitely think I think the problem with closing, obviously there's more than that one problem, but one of the biggest issues with closing these campuses and ending winter into session is the communication, right? Like if you were to tell students ahead of time, maybe like a year before you were to close it, or you make the decision and then close it a year later, it would offer students the time to be able to remedy that change, right? Find their mitigation, find something to cope with whatever scenario that they're going to be thrown into. So I think definitely communication, working this year on trying to make it more public at least, or for to offer some more time in preparation. But not only that, but also in regards to explaining to them the process, right? Explaining to them that student government has voice in it, but to a certain extent, and letting them know that there is a proper way to, I guess, voice your concerns and helping them alleviate their, I guess, their resentment through a productive manner would probably be my next step. Yeah.
Thank you. Amber.
Yes, I agree with everything that they said. They were really good answers about taking accountability and learning from those mistakes about communication. I also think that one of the most important leadership skills that one can have is empathy. And if I were put in the position of addressing that student, I would first empathize with that student because they most likely have been impacted by the closure of that campus. So having compassion really helps you make effective decisions when you're putting yourself in their shoes. And then after empathizing with them, I would also work with them in however they were impacted. I would help find solutions for them. I would work with fellow board members and seeing what we can do to help that student.
Wonderful. Thank you all. So a couple other questions we have. We're coming up on June 15th when the governor has said the state will be wide open. But the college itself right now plans on still having a limited reopening. Right now, the college will allow students on campus, but they're going to be required to wear masks. And that is a contentious piece. I want to know from you as student leaders, how do you get the message out and how do you convince your fellow students that this is something they have to do to be on campus? So we're going to open up again, probably going to be required to wear masks. How do you as students communicate that? And when I say communicate that, give me an idea. How are you going to do that? How are you going to communicate that masks are required? Okay. And maybe even talk a little bit about why. So anyone else besides Jonathan want to go first? All right, Jillian, go for it. And then we'll go to Jonathan.
I think that it's really important to spread awareness about the importance of wearing masks or just taking other safety precautions that the health department thinks that's important when we go back on campus by using social media, of course, posting the different things that we need to do in order to make our campus safe. But I think it's also important if we don't have social media that we can able to make like a Canvas page as well to post updates. But like I said, I'm really into more of an engagement instead of posting things and people liking them or simply commenting on them. I would really like to host an event with the other associated students as well as the board to talk about these things, to help people be knowledgeable about them and also hear their feedback about them and how we could continuously make them feel safe or other suggestions that they have as well. So it will more be of a collaborative experience with the students and then the associated board.
Thank you. Jonathan.
Yeah, so I agree with Jillian on everything. Me and the rest of the PCC for Change people have talked about some sort of vaccine educational body where we could actually educate people about like COVID and just the safetiness, because we all know someone or we have ourselves lost someone to COVID. And that's just a sad reality. And even though that some people have lost someone or they know someone that's lost someone, they still are hesitant. And that's a sad reality. And I think part of me being a representative and a leader is to still hear them, no matter like what their view is on masks, but to also help them and educate them, make them feel heard, but also just solve the problem that is affecting so many people in this nation also. So I would want to educate people, and I'd also want to provide resources on campus to make sure that people feel safe. Things such as air purifiers, more sanitation, UV lights. I think these are all things that sadly are just part of the new normal. Yeah.
Thank you. Next, who wants to go next? Kelly.
All right, I think I would probably start out with aside from the content for the promotion would probably include something about like the benefits they're missing out on, the benefits of learning in person, their interactions with professors, all the experiences they would be missing out on, definitely kind of like highlighting the fact that they would be missing out on the opportunities that they would probably have if they had just gotten this vaccination, and then promoting that through, I think this is an idea that I talked with Carrie before during my attempt to get out promotion for voting. It was to kind of create this like poster that said, I am, XYZ, right? We can do it for vaccinations, or we could do it for, tests, for both COVID tests. I am XYZ, and then posting on people's stories and having them repost and creating a group effort. Like Jillian mentioned before, it's not about you as an individual, it's about your community, and making it a team effort to get everyone vaccinated, to get back on campus and get those opportunities.
Thank you. Amber.
Yes, I agree that it definitely needs to be a team effort. It's going to have to include professors, staff members, us as an executive, if elected, executive board. I think to communicate with them, we would need to send out emails. Again, use our professors. I think they're a really good advantage that we can have. They can educate their students on why masks are important. I know a lot of people, like Jonathan said, have lost people. There's just so much grief and there's so much sorrow around us. So it's good that we communicate with that, connect with that message of loss and say, look, these masks, they help save lives, and we should emphasize the importance of masks in classrooms.
Thank you very much. Okay, looks like Kelly lost her internet. Let's hope she comes back. So this next question is specifically for Jonathan and Amber. So it's come from a member of our audience. So as you know, each student pays a $2 student representation fee that goes for lobbying and representation at the state and federal level. $1 that goes directly to the associate students, and then $1 that goes to the statewide student senate. So the question is to the two of you, let me make sure I read it right. $1 goes directly, to how will you make sure that the students' money is well spent in that organization? So $1 goes to the students, California Student Senate. They use that to advocate, they use that to lobby. How would you make sure that that organization is using our students' money in a effective manner and make sure that it's well spent? So Jonathan.
Yeah, so I think there's two things that I could really do. One of them is just personally just voice my concern to them and just like tell them that, also get input from students on how it is. I would love to hear from places like the finance committee, equity committee, any sort of people who are interested in it. I would love to hear their concerns and voice it to that body. Another thing that I think I could do is actually join it, because there's positions there where you could actually have some influence there. So I'd be willing to run for a position and join it. So I could actually be able to make sure that the funds are properly used.
Thank you. Amber.
Yes, so logistic wise, I think communication plays an important role in that, so that we can effectively make sure where the money is going and that we're not spending it on stuff that, on issues that aren't important to the students. Also, like Jonathan said, we need to hear from the students. If, whoever is elected, it's not about what we want to fight for. It's not about, something that we want. It's about what the students want. So again, just reaching out to different clubs, different centers at PCC, and asking them what they need, and communicating with them to see on how they would want the money to be spent. That's how we would effectively spend it.
Thank you. Okay, so this question is going to be specifically for Kelly. You are running for the student trustee, and that means that you will then be working on issues of policy for their larger campus. There are several other trustees on that board. What is one thing you will do to make sure that the student voice is heard by those 7 other individuals?
Thank you. That's a really great question, and hopefully I can be heard and sing now. So I think essentially it starts with building a good, professional relationship also, but also a almost personal one. Through this past year, David and I, the current trustee, we've been working with the Board of Trustees to lobby with state representatives. So I know them a little bit personally already. So I think that's going to be a great stepping stone into ensuring that they respect the student voice, presenting myself in a professional manner, ensuring that, obviously, speaking to them in an empathetic but also urgent manner to ensure that they understand the weight of the student voice and the necessity of my position. That's probably, I hope that answers the question. I think, was it that the one thing I would do to probably ensure that relationship, and that would probably be it. Yeah.
Thank you. So Jillian, this one's for you. So right now we are in a period of change in time and hopefully activism that I've not seen in quite a while. We're seeing the Black Lives Matter movement. We're seeing folks stand up and say, we have a voice and we're going to use that. You're looking at what's going on with the Stop API Hate. And, we're going to have, there's more change on the horizon. How do you, as the Vice President for Student Equity, move that needle for change on our campus?
Thank you for that question. I think it's really important to move that needle for change because we are in a really big climate right now where a lot of Black, Indigenous people of color are going through a variety of discriminatory experiences and going through a lot of tragic events. I would really love to collaborate with a lot of organizations and groups on campus that represent marginalized identities within society and be able to uplift their voices. I think that it's really important for them to talk about the experiences that their community are going through. And I think that it also would be a good idea with holding events as well, because personally, like myself, it took me a long time to understand what the true meaning of activism and equity is. And I would love to have a variety of leaders that come from a variety of marginalized groups to talk about the experiences, whether you're a part of that community and you're able to relate to them, but if you're a part of another community too, and how you can actually take action and actively be an ally for that community as well.
Okay. So, whoops. All right, thank you. So we're going to keep on going. I think, Jonathan, I know you wanted to stab at that, but it's Jillian's questions, her thing. So we are, I think some of the questions that students have been asking over and over is, when can we get back? I need to be on campus. And there's a whole lot of uncertainty around that, right? How would you, as associate students, meet the needs of students because we're all not going to be able to be back on campus? What's one thing you would do to help meet those needs? Students are asking to be back on campus. They're asking for the library to be open. They're asking to have in-person classroom discussions face-to-face. What's one thing that you would do? And this time, because we're coming towards the end, I'm going to keep you to 30 seconds. 30 seconds. What's one thing that you would do to meet those needs? Go for it, Amber.
Since I'm running for Vice President of External Affairs, it would be my job to lobby legislators and advocate for more funding, for more resources. PCC has a lot of resources, a lot of clubs that can help students who are in this virtual environment of learning. But the question is whether or not they are provided with all of the tools and the funding to effectively execute the goals of their club or their centers. So lobbying for funding and more resources so that those clubs and centers can help students would be a solution to that.
Thank you. Next. Kelly.
All right, so I think one of the things that it's a huge concern to me, and I think a lot of other students that aren't on campus or won't be able to be returning to campus, is that a lot of students who are underprivileged, they might be living out of their cars, they might, be dependent on these public areas for safe spaces. So I definitely think one of the things I would probably do is to ensure that at least these students are able to, first of all, yes, organizations. We do have a website on our PCC webpage that has a list of resources that are connected directly to the school. That's something that I advocated for in a lot of legislation town halls. I continue to do that.
Thank you. Next. Jonathan.
Yeah, so I think at first I would really just try to fight for as many students to get back as possible and try to secure as many spots as we can, but in the safest manner possible. And then I also think that, like Kelly said, these public areas such as the parking lot for Wi-Fi, now the Krevling Lounge, I would really fight for more areas like this, because the more that we have them spread out, the more students can actually safely utilize them. And so I also think we need to do that in logistics, such as systems to make sure that people are safely on campus. And like Amber said, I would also fight for funding for different programs such as sanitation, clubs, and mental health resources.
Thank you. Jillian.
I think that it's really important with having students come back on campus. I really want my position to be a collaborative experience, like I stated before, with amongst the associated student body and myself with my position as VP of Student Equity. I want to really hear their concerns and how they feel about going back on campus, or how they feel with half majority of students staying at home, and how we can meet their needs in a variety of ways. I think that a lot of people have been negatively impacted by the pandemic, especially low-income individuals as well. And I want to make sure in my position that we're giving them enough resources such as food services and clothing drives and many more.
Excellent. Okay, so we've got some other questions coming in. We're almost out of time. We're going to run a little bit late if you're all, are you okay going a little bit past 1? Okay, so I think this is a really good question. So this is for everybody. The college is considering amending a policy to allow student participation in faculty hiring. Do you believe that is important, and why? So the college is changing the policy to allow students to sit on faculty hiring committees. Is that important, and why? And I believe I saw Julian's hand first, please.
Personally, I believe that is really important to have students on the hiring committee when hiring a variety of educators and staff. I think that with going to, for instance, the college and being able to sit in a classroom with somebody such as your teacher, there's a trust there, and you don't want to be in a room with a teacher that you're not able to trust or is not making a safe place for you as a student, and certainly as an individual as well. I think that it's really important to have students voice their opinions on who they want to see on campus, but they also voice who they want to see is going to be able to represent them and make them feel safe every time they walk on school campus or every time they're in the classroom with that teacher.
Thank you. Next, who wants to go? Kelly.
All right, so I definitely think this question goes back to my strong belief that the students should be involved in every decision made on campus, because going back to the idea of the democratic voice, right? Students are paying for tuition; they should be included in the decisions when people are hiring staff to teach them, right? You should be part of the decisions involved in crafting your education, and this is definitely part of it. As Julian said, right? You're creating the environment you want to learn in, and that's one of the strongest reasons why I think students should definitely be on hiring committees.
Thank you. Next, anyone else? Jonathan?
Yeah, so just bouncing off of what Jillian and Kelly said, that's been a huge slate policies that we we actually really want more students on hiring committees, because these teachers and professors will be serving students for indefinitely, like forever, pretty much. And after they get like tenured, like it's pretty much, there's no stopping them from there. And so like it's really important to make sure that we have like teachers who share like views with the students and who are compassionate about like learning. And we really need, like Kelly says, like this democratic system where students get a say of what's actually happening on campus, because in the end, it's their education.
Thank you. Amber.
I believe that this decision would be very beneficial for students. Particularly going back to the first question that you asked, I think this would help a lot of disadvantaged students as well, because part of that barrier that disadvantaged students face is a lack of representation, right? Like having professors, having staff members that look like you, that know your experiences, that have been in your shoes. So I think it would be especially important for those students to have professors that they can connect to and staff members.
Thank you. Okay, so kind of this is the second to last question I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask you this last question, then I'm going to give you all 15 seconds to close it out and give us a pitch about why we should vote for you. But this is the last question, and it's for everybody. I often challenge the associate students to look around and I say, who's not at the table? So who's not at the table and why does that matter? So looking at right now, this group here, you know, representation matters, voice matters. Whose voice isn't here, and how would you outreach to them to bring them in so that way their voice is heard? So who's not looking just at this table here? Who's not here? And how would you outreach and bring them in? So I see Jonathan's hand.
Yeah, so unfortunately, non-traditional students, we are all here first and second year students. Non-traditional students are the majority of PCC. They deserve a seat at the table. And it's quite frustrating that they don't. And that's part of my policy, is that I really want to connect with non-traditional students. My mother, she went to PCC 4 years ago for the paralegal program. She was a non-traditional student. And like she's met like a bunch of other non-traditional students. I have had the pleasure of meeting retirees, single mothers, just justice impacted students. Like I really think that they deserve a seat at the table. And so I would form a joint committee, and I would hope for them to actually serve on it so then they could have their voice amplified.
Okay, thank you. Who's next? Amber.
There are so many communities that I can think of, but one that comes to mind are our international students. They were completely left out for the first and second relief packages, and they are one of the communities that are severely impacted by the COVID pandemic, because a lot of them are unemployed and are struggling financially. So I would definitely lobby and advocate that they are fully included in any upcoming relief packages, and I would advocate for more funding so that they can get some cash relief.
Thank you. Next, Kelly.
Yeah, kind of going back on the non-traditional students, a lot of our students aren't, coming from high school, right? They're CTE students, right? Maybe they're in a career path that's not traditional per se. And I think a lot of the attention has gone towards, transferring, all those different things. But we have to remind ourselves that community college, especially PCC, right? Community college is a 2-year school, and that we should be focusing on those CTE students and bringing their voice to the table. And very, very rarely do I really see a discussion on that. So I definitely want to work this year towards engaging them and ensuring that their voice is accurately represented.
Thank you. Jillian.
I think, unfortunately, a lot of disabled students are not at the table with being represented. Like I shared that young man's story with you on not being able to be truly successful in his way on his academic journey because he wasn't being able to get enough resources because he was visually impaired. I feel like it is my duty in my position as VP of Student Equity to be able to take students' experiences, such as within the disabled community, and be able to voice them. And I also would like to create an organization with the services that are provided for disabled students on PCC on how we can keep advocating for those groups to actually be heard and be given the resources where they feel like they're supported, not only as students, but really as individuals as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Excellent. Thank you all for participating. Thank you to our audience who put in their questions and took the time to participate. We're going to upload this video. This video is going to be uploaded to the ASPCC page, so folks will be able to see it and review it. Now you're going to all have an opportunity to give me a 15-second pitch about why you should, why they should vote for you. All right. So let's do this. Well, let's just do this. Who wants to go first? Kelly, 15 seconds.
All right, I'm gonna start my timer. So, all right. So I really hope to be seeing your vote this coming election, because having worked in AS before, I know the process, I know the people. I will be there on the first day to be representing you, listening to you, and accurately, hopefully accurately, as accurate as possible, representing your voice to the Board of Trustees. Thank you.
Okay. So next, Amber.
I really hope I can receive your vote next week for Vice President of External Affairs. I've been involved in public leadership for the past, student leadership for the past 6-7 years throughout middle school, throughout high school. I'm ready to fight for you. I know that you're hurting and that you're struggling, and I hope I can receive your vote.
Thank you. All right, Jillian. Actually, Jillian or Jonathan, who wants to go? Okay, Jillian.
I would love if you guys can vote for me for Vice President of Student Equity, because I think that I would like to bring my own representation to the table for the Black community, but it's not only just for the Black community as well, but bring other representations with communities that I'm not a part of. And I really want to be able to bring your experience to the table and know that your voice is heard as students and individuals.
Thank you. Jonathan.
I'm really seeking your vote for VP of External Affairs. I have the experience on 3 different committees. I have been fighting and I have been lobbying for them. I currently will, and even if I don't get elected, I hope to still serve on the student lobby committee so I could keep fighting for whatever you guys believe in.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Wow, what a great experience. So thank you so much. And please don't forget, the elections happen next week, Wednesday and Thursday. You go to Lancer Life, that's lancerlife.pasadena.edu, and there'll be a huge banner that will say vote, click here to vote, and you get to vote for folks. Just also as a reminder, some of these folks are running uncontested. That doesn't mean that they automatically win. If a candidate is running uncontested, they must win the majority of the votes that were cast for them. So if candidate A has 100 votes cast for them, they must have 51 yes votes. So you do have the opportunity, if someone is uncontested, to vote no, and that person must win the majority of the votes cast as a positive. So they must have at least 51 votes voting yes. So thank you all very much for being here with us today, and have a great day. Candidates, we're just going to let the tape run for a minute so we can close it out and end the live stream.